we are diving right into the work of creating a cartoon, which is a 24-minute first half of a 48-minute double-length pilot episode, of which the first initial 24-minute episode is actually almost done-ish. But for the last few days, I've been going through a process of taking shots that just weren't quite up to the level they needed to be at and trying to get them there. Morning, Mikhail. So today we have the latency on the live stream set back to the normal latency, and it seems to me that yesterday having it set to ultra low latency caused more disconnections. So it seems like the disconnections that can happen might be more on the YouTube end than anything else. But anyway, let's get right to it. Our session yesterday in the afternoon turned out to be largely a bust in that, in fact, I deleted the video. I didn't even leave the stream up. And it was a 2-hour session where an hour and a half of it was spent with two different shots in two different versions of Blender, running into just silly little niggly problems that make it clunky and time-consuming to get the job done. And in fact, this shot in particular, when I finally gave up on Blender and brought it into Krita, the whole shot was completely done in 15 minutes. So it's like, I'm not a hater, because as I've said many times, I've used Blender for 20 years and still do use it. A lot of things, you know, motion tracking, compositing, obviously 3D, the grease pencil, the whole thing. But it's just not the right tool for the job in most cases on this project. So that's that. Asher has kind of made a strategic error by overstepping his bounds in terms of core protocol. And the king, who rather likes Asher, would probably look the other way, frankly. Except that what Asher said, he said in front of everyone. And as we see here, I actually added this shot yesterday. The drought has been going on for many years. By the way, I just added this rim light and re-rendered this out of Krita. I definitely think that helped a bit. So Asher's a little bit bummed, you know, as you wish, my lord, or something like that, he says. So this is the shot that was done some time ago in Blender. What we're going to do is we're going to repurpose this shot in Krita in order to, and we might jump back to Blender to render out this silhouette activity in the foreground of Asher, because that came out really nice. We could just render that and bring it into Krita. So let's look at what the steps would be to accomplish that. First of all, if I'm not mistaken, I do believe image, let me see, I do believe I did this image. Yes. Okay, this is good news actually. So this image was done at 1280 by 720. You'll find that in practice, going down to broadcast HD and then scaling up later to full HD, it doesn't matter. Some people get a little edgy about that, but the truth is, every film that I've released has been edited at broadcast HD and then scaled. I'm giving OBS half a second here to decide if it wants to reconnect, and it did reconnect. Okay, so because this is at broadcast HD, what we'll do is we're going to scale it up, and if we notice here, the background is already bigger. Okay, so let's hit the A key. You can see that Krita keeps track of the full scale of the image, and you can see this was an image that was painted over. It was basically a really bad drawing that I painted over to sort of repurpose it into a usable background a long time ago. So what we'll do is let's take step one. Let's scale up this image so that we can get Golik into the shot. So we're going to take this guy, Golik, right here, and we're going to put him in the shot. But as you can see, compared to this shot, we've got to reframe the king and make room for Golek. And if we scale up to full HD, that's going to also give us room to re-render Asher and then overlay him in the foreground, and we'll be good to go. It should be a good looking shot. So the interesting thing about this shot is if you take the idea is that the king is this sequence of circumstances the king finds disappointing. Not the end of the world, but it isn't a happy situation. Not a big deal, as I say, but so we want the idea that the king is his face falls. Well, we found out on this last shot that the king, his chin raising up was actually more effective for the emotion than his chin coming down. Interesting. I think if we did the same thing on this shot, so we start here, essentially running the keys in reverse, and then have him go like this. So it's not that he's showing kind of on the nose disappointment as much as he's showing steely resolve despite the fact that it's really not his preference, the situation. So again, as I said, this is kind of subtle acting. The key thing is his facial expression needs to change where he's looking disappointed instead of looking ornery. That's pretty easy. So that's kind of our sequence of operations here on this first shot. It's quite a little batch of activities. One thing we do need to do is, let me see here. I'm going to have to open up, let me see if Blender 2.8 is going to give me grief. If it is, then I'm not even going to fight with it. I will simply redraw the Asher animation because, I mean, it's a silhouette for crying out loud. It'll take me less than 5 minutes to do, but we'll see if we can do what we're trying to do here. Okay, so in Blender 2.8, this is 177, and we've already saved it as a Krita file. So what we're going to do, if everything goes well, is we're going to actually turn these levels off. So the only thing we have is Asher, right? And then what we'll do is we'll go back here and go into object mode, so Control Tab. And let's just take this and get rid of it. We'll take this, get rid of it. So the only thing we have is Asher, and at this point, based on everything that's been going on with this particular scene, we might as well just save it, because I'm not keeping any of the old animation anyway. So now what should happen is if I hit once over top of everything in Krita, but before we do it, what we want to do is we want to scale up the entire shot. We are going to have to redo some animation here on the king, so I guess step one will be to go ahead and get that in place. So here's Vespigi. What we want to do is take these three keys. Actually, let me double check this. There's the down position, and actually here's the up position. So what we want to do is take these four keys and move them back to the beginning here. And now we're going to take everything else. I'm actually going to keep that one in there. I'm going to keep that one in there. Okay, so Control-Shift-X to get rid of those keyframes. I want to see what this expression looks like. I think it would be interesting if he actually started with his eyes closed. So I'm going to mirror these frames, and then what we want to do is give it a good half a second to breathe a bit. And then we may even want to consider slowing down the animation, but we'll see. So I'm going to hit the... let's defer on that. Now all of the king's lip sync can be deleted. It's not needed for this shot. That's from the shot this was repurposed from. So save that. And that's our highlight. So what we're going to do is we're going to get Asher in there, and then we're going to double check the timing on the king. If we look at the original shot, I'm sure there's a little bit of a delay. Like well, we can't see it now because I rendered over it, but Okay, so forget that idea. But what we'll do is we'll get Asher in there and then just see where it feels right to have the king relax, and then we'll change his face to show disappointment instead of steely resolve. Everything making sense? I hope so. I do. Good morning, Blifton. Good morning, guy whose name I can't pronounce. Right. So the first step before we import the Asher stuff is going to be to resize the whole doggone shot. Alright, and here's how we're going to do it. We're going to go image, resize the canvas. So we're not scaling the image. We're just resizing the canvas because A, we want to keep the king the same size within the new larger frame. And number two, the background's already a lot bigger. So what we're going to do is we're going to scale this up. I guess we should just go to pixels here. So let's go to 1920. And in pixels, I believe it already calculated it for us. But let's just make sure. There we go. Yep, 1080. Constrain proportions. Now here's the key that's going to make it work nicely. We click this little guy down here, anchor. That means it's going to be scaled up from the bottom left corner. Boom, look at that. Piece of a utter and complete silliness in Krita. It used to not be possible to do what I'm for. Why, that's silly. Okay, so the next step is to get Asher in here. So let's go File, Import Animation Frames. And we're going to add the images from 177. So let's see. We're going to Scenes 177. And we should find our silhouette of Asher right here. All right. And so now what we're going to do is going to hit Control A, open up, and boom, bring him in. So that's probably going to bring in about, yeah, I was afraid of that. That kicked us up to 600 megabytes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the extra step of cleaning out the extra redundant keyframes. Okay? Which means, let me see here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go forward to the next frame, and I see that nothing changed on Asher. You can see he starts moving, boom, here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, actually, by the way, just for the record, what I'm doing right now is something else that has worked for a long, long time in Krita, and for some reason, because of some hotkey silliness, seems to be of questionable efficacy nowadays. So I can do it that way, just shift click and then delete the extra keyframes. So you can see, boom, our memory footprint just went down. Okay, this is kind of interesting. And then he's gone. So poof, let's get rid of all of those. It is kind of weird the way he... oh, I see, I see. When I animated this, I was kind of making him turn around first. Okay. So we'll add a blank keyframe there to get rid of the stick that was languishing in the corner. So when we start the shot, that's what we'll see. Yeah, so I think that the king's reaction should be as Asher's leaving. Yeah, cool. All right. Save our work. We're in good stead at this moment. We're looking good for this shot. Okay, so what about the king? Well, let's go to the Vespighi layer. Now the first thing I'm going to do is, I think I'm probably going to... I want to see his expression soften. And number two, I want to see, right now he's looking forward. Now most of the time if you were watching this, you probably wouldn't notice it. But if you went and watched it twice, you might think about it. The fact that he's not looking at Asher. He's looking straight ahead. So it's almost like he's like, this is why I said this shot has a lot of subtlety to it, much of which will probably be lost on the audience, I suppose. But you see how he's looking straight ahead, and now what I want to do is I want to animate his expression softening while his eyes go back over to Asher. So this is kind of a little sad thing going on. All right, so step one would be, let's do the eyes. All right, so I'm going to hit the G key, and we really don't want any color correction in there. That'll screw up our color sampling. And of course, curve interpolation is absolutely worthless, at least in my experience. Curve precision actually is the correct term. Okay, just go to brush, and we'll see if this looks right. It's a little tricky because he's got to track Asher, and we could say, yeah, I mean, I'd say that's about right. Okay, now if it was me, I think there should be a little pause. So he's got this steely resolve thing going on, and then it's almost like he buckles. It's almost like he gives in to his emotions. So yeah, like I said, it's a little cheeseball. It's a little what do I want to say? I keep saying subtle. That's probably the best word for it. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to grab his eyebrows. All the acting is going to be in his eyebrows, and this is going to create a bunch of holes in the cartoon, in the visuals. We don't care about that. Those holes won't matter. They'll be easy to fix up. And so the important thing here is to get the acting right, and then we'll deal with fixing the problems that may have emerged in the art. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so that last one's probably too much. A little bit too much of a good thing. So this is kind of my normal process. I think for most people dealing with animation, this is a little non-intuitive. But the crazy thing is that it works really well and it's really fast. So if you were going to compare it to another methodology, you might think about working in, say, Toon Boom or Blender. Pick your program of choice, and you might say, how would you accomplish the same thing that I just did by just making a selection and moving it around, but destroying a bit of the picture in the process? Well, one way you might do it is to do a bunch of rigging. You might break your character up into layers and then use bones or other tools to be able to manipulate those eyebrows, right? Which is ultimately what we're just trying to do, is make an adjustment on his eyebrows. Sorry, I got the color wrong there a little bit. Another way, I suppose, in Blender would be to render your character out. And this is a good working method, I think, is take your character and just map it to a plane. Just take an image and then use shape keys. So that's a legitimate approach. These approaches are all worthwhile. It's, for me, what's turned out to be the case is that it's usually a lot faster, and actually I get better results in terms of the acting and the emoting of the characters and all that sort of business. Doing it this way. Just chop the sucker up into pieces and then patch the holes. Simple. Very, very simple. Very old school, you might say. Kind of crude. But the crazy thing is it works really well. And the time it takes to fix these holes the way I'm doing, so I want to grab that color, turns out to be, at least for me, turns out to be much, not a little bit less, but a ton less than any other way of doing it, you know. So that's my little conceit. My little conceit. And this, we don't really want to. Well, plus, the thing about it is all the other animation methods always have, like the way this bit into the crown area, you know, those kinds of side effects are totally normal. I mean, you're always going to have those kinds of side effects. So the question becomes for me, how do I fix them? And the easiest way to fix them seems to be just freaking paint over it, you know? It's the simplest, most obvious solution. Turns out to be kind of the best one. So, it's all opinion, though. Hey, Darren T. Hey, Inio-san. Just looked up and noticed you guys are here. Welcome to the party. Welcome to the party. This is going to be a pretty neat little scene. Now, mainly because I like the emotion of it. I like the, you know, what the king is thinking and feeling, you know. I mean, come on, with cartoons, this is really why we do it, right? It's a lot easier than directing live actors. That's a fact. Actually, that's not a fact. It's actually a lot harder than directing live actors. But it's more convenient. It's a lot more convenient to just do this, you know, this cartoon thing by yourself than to have to get a cast together and get locations and all the rest. But at the end of the day, we're trying to tell stories, right? So let's see how this went. Now my prediction is that the last frame, this shot, this pose right here with the is going to be too much of a good thing. But the idea is that Asher passes through in silhouette, and the king raises up his chin with steely resolve, but then he buckles a little bit when he looks at Asher and his as he softens his gaze. I appreciate that. Can you mystery name guy who appears to be Asian, can you put something in the chat that would tell us in English how you say your name? Can you write it out phonetically? Like, for example, if I was going to do the same thing with my name, I would probably say I would probably spell it like that, Dave, so it's clear that it's a long A, that type of thing. I don't know. Just wondering. So anyway, let's look at the acting here and see what we've got. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Not bad, but this happens too early, and I think it happens at too fast a pace as well. So I'm actually going to put in, I'm not going to do tweens, okay? But I am going to just slow it down. And I think actually, let me see here. Boom. Okay, so these two can be close together. So we're going to let this breathe a little bit. That's what I always used to say to the actors, actually, when I was directing them. I would say, I'd be like, geez, man, you just said your line like at lightning speed all in a row. One thing you find with acting, it's one of the reasons why there's a more deliberate pace typically on my lip sync on the cartoon, is that when you're dealing with actors, you generally want them to speak, I don't know, it's probably about half again slower than normal. So if I said the same line I just said, you would want them to say their line about half again slower than normal. Now you might feel like that's really slow, deliberate speech, and it was maybe a little too much, but you will certainly find that actor pacing is more deliberate and more slow than normal speech. People actually speak really, really quickly. So here he goes, and then, okay. I'm going to break this up, baby. I'm feeling it. So he, and then he looks over. Okay, yeah. Now this can go over here. So all I want to do is have him glance over, and then there's a moment where is he going to respond or not? Okay. Let me think about this. I told you this was subtle. I feel like this one here, I'm going to try this different ways and see what's feeling right. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take this and just move it downstream for the moment. And kind of what I'm feeling here is that this kind of works, but I want the thing we did before with Asher. I'm just going to give him about a 3-frame flattening out. And I think that gives us the beats we want. Now the thing you want to keep in mind is that we're also going to have Golik in the background starting to smile. So there's a lot of stuff weaving together. Oh, it's not an Asian name. Okay. Put in the cursed text generator. Oh, really? Cursed text generator. Okay, so should we just call you L? That's like on Death Note, right? Wasn't the guy's name L? Maybe I'm remembering wrong. Ah, not bad, not bad, not bad. This is probably a little too late. And I would say emotionally, I'm overplaying my hand a little bit. Okay, so if my actor did this, I would say, okay, you're giving me all the beats I want, but we need to play around with the pacing of it a little bit. So up, snap, fall. Okay, not bad, not bad. That's a little bit musical. Up, snap. So we're up, snap, fall. Okay, I like that. Tends to be the sort of thing that an audience can wrap their head around. The point being, there's no question here. Let me look at, you're going to see Asher as noise. Okay? Once Asher's gone, there's no doubt your tension's going to be right here. So that means we cannot have Golik in the background growing into a smile. I mean, we can, but we probably shouldn't. What we should do is we should wait and have it happen after, so it's a sequence, so that once the king is deflated, right, I would say right about, boom, right about here, almost at the same pace, bop, 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 okay? Either we have Golik have his change of expression around here, or we try gluing it in somewhere between these two actions just to see how it feels. But my suspicion is it's going to work better as a sequence. Okay, so these are all editorial type thoughts. Now if we go back here, and by the way, we can kill Blender. I saved my work, and that's that. Okay. Where are we going to get Golik from is the question. Probably be whatever was the last shot he was in, which I believe is this one. But we'll keep looking here a bit. Yeah, all this stuff's going to be getting redone anyway, so. And I'm not mega fond of that one. I think I'm going to go way back here to this. I'm going to go back to 152B and make a few amendments. Okay, so what we want to do is I just want to get the still image from it. So I believe it was 152-B. No? Was it 152? 152B. Or did I do that in Tahoma? I think I actually might have. I am a silly goose. So, I think that as I go forward, this business of having to sort of jump around and figure out where I put stuff is probably going to become less of an issue. Okay. This, frankly, I don't love. But that's your, that is quite specifically why I'm gravitating away from not only Blender as far as the generating the imagery, but also as far as the smart raster levels in Tahoma. They're awesome, but they're often more detrimental than helpful. So it is what it is. 152B, there he is. So we're going to do this the hard way. And the hard way is to just grab one of these images and drag it into Krita and then clean it up. So I'm going to insert it as a new layer. That's fine. And then what we're going to do is put him up top. And now what we will do is, first of all, we'll just rough him in here. So we're going to select him and then hit Control-Shift-I, which inverts the selection, and then we can delete it. Now we can just go in and erase and just clean it up a bit. Okay, so there's the B key. I suppose this brush, yes, in erase mode would probably do the job quite well. And so I wish I didn't have to take this step, but you know what? Who cares? One time we have to take 2 minutes, take a chill pill, think about what your next steps are going to be, and kind of meditatively consider how lucky we are that we get to sit here. Actually, we can think about how lucky you are that you get to sit. You come to the table of my wisdom, and you get to sit at the feet of the animation master, who will graciously and generously teach you all of the tricks of his trade. This is a wonderful thing to contemplate. A wonderful thing. I was joking yesterday where I was watching a video by Sadhguru. I like Sadhguru. He is a funny man, and he is a wise man. There is no doubt that he is a wise man. However, in this particular video, Sadhguru story goes on for 15 minutes. Sadhguru tells this story for 15 minutes. He talks for 15 minutes. Now, to be fair, I talk much longer than Sadhguru. But again, you are so lucky because you get to sit at the feet of the master. How lucky can you be? But I must tell you, Sadhguru spoke for 15 minutes and did not say a thing. He did not say anything in 15 minutes of talking. It was very, very disappointing. So you say, well, Dave, why are you speaking in all these funny voices? Because it's fun. That's why. Because it's fun. It's bloody fun, people. Don't you understand fun? The point here is to have fun. There's nothing else that we're here for. I mean, think of it. You're here, you're watching this live stream, and if you're typical, you probably come here quite often and stay quite often. What does that actually mean? What does that say about you? You have nothing better to do than watch an idiot like me blather on endlessly about nothing. We are very bankrupt. We are a very bankrupt culture with nothing to do but while away our days on YouTube. I'm just having fun, folks. I'm having fun. I'm kidding. No, it's actually quite an amazing thing to be able to just learn and, you know, I love to learn. I love to learn. It is a great thing. It makes me feel good inside. Let's see here. Now talk like Darren. Well, I've got to get in the right frame of mind because I don't. The British, there are so many different permutations. Good day, hello, friends. There are so many different permutations of British English that right now I don't have it right. I don't have it right. It's a legitimate accent, but it's not Darren T. I would actually have to go back and listen to him for maybe 10 seconds or so. But right now, yeah, that's not Darren T. It's weird, you know. I find this actually quite interesting. People learn in different ways. Some people are visual learners. I typically am a very visual learner as opposed to an auditory or kinesthetic learner. In other words, if I see someone do it, by gum, I can do it. And I usually have to see them do it just once. Don't encourage him. Of course he should encourage me. I should always be encouraged. But when it comes to voices, I apparently am an auditory learner because if I just can hear the voice, I almost always can imitate it, whether it's an accent or whether it's a, you know, when I, like, it was like doing Ed Wynn, you know, on Less Breathy. Yeah, I mean, but Darren does, but he does have a, okay, so it does, I'm thinking about, see, I don't know my parts of England. Like, I can remember hearing interviews with, if you compare the Beatles, let's say, to Def Leppard. Okay, the Def Leppard boys are from Sheffield. And boy, you could definitely tell the difference between Sheffield and Liverpool. But I couldn't do it for you now because I would have to hear it first to sort of get it reset in my mind. Right? It's just one of those weird things. And I think it might be, there are some things that are skills that you can learn, okay? And I mean that as distinct from what I would call a talent, which is kind of something you're born with. You know, one of my conceits, I suppose, is that in the big scheme of things, I'd like to think of most of the things I do as skills, meaning that, hey, anyone could do it. But I also recognize that to a degree, some of it might in fact be talent. And that doesn't mean I'm especially talented at anything I'm doing here. I'm aware of a few things that I can do that I know are talents. Not very many, actually. But imitations are one of them. I can do very, 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 very good imitations and voices if I just hear it first. Okay, so let's look at what the timing of here is going to be. First thing we'll do is get Golik kind of sort of where he needs to be. So let's take him and put him obviously behind the king, but in front of, actually he would, okay, so this is actually a bit of a problem I had forgotten about. Technically, he probably should be behind the throne, but we can mitigate that a little bit. We can cheat that. So let's hit Control G and we'll put Golik in his own layer, and then we'll use an erase layer to put the throne in front of him effectively. Okay? Hope that's making perfect sense. Perfect sense. And then what we need to do is we have to say, let's just do this one thing at a time. Obviously, their heads would be of similar-ish size. And if the king was actually sitting there, his feet would be coming down about to here, which would put Golik, hey, you know, actually, I'm going to make Golik a little bit smaller because he is back behind, but honestly, he probably belongs right about there. Let's see here. Let's hit the N key and see what that feels like. Okay, so the main problem with Golik is we need to put in, let's do a solo fill tool black. Let's just fill this with black and then alpha lock it so that at any time we can just dial in lighting for him, right? because it's a little distracting if his color is, you know, like kind of blatantly different, or, you know, he's standing out too much compared to the king. I want these guys to sit in the mix together, as they say. Okay. So now we have an obvious problem, and what we want to do is fix as much as possible with the static image, because we're going to wind up animating it, right? So step one in that regard would be to actually stop, hit the undo key. This tint actually needs to be removed until, well, it corrupts all of our color sampling. So, you know, when you Darren, he needs to be less breath. Okay, so nothing else is going on. All right, so obvious another problem. An obvious another problem. How's that for good English? An obvious another problem is that you don't really know what to do. It's very difficult to know what to do. But you see, if you try really hard, then you can do amazing things. You really can actually do very amazing things. So now the question is, what voice is he doing now? And the answer is, I don't really know. I just made it up sort of just a moment ago. So what's interesting about that is, it isn't just doing a voice, but there's a whole character behind it, you know, in my head. That might be a little creepy, actually. I don't know. But that's what happens if you have the skill, talent, or proclivity to... We need to nail that boy's feet to the floor. That wasn't quite round enough. We need to nail his feet to the floor. Something like that. No, that was... Oh my gosh. Okay, that was wrong. The whole Caribbean thing. Again, if I heard it, man, I'm not lying. Okay, and actually, why don't we... Oh my goodness, we are going to seize the day. This is one of the things I like about working this way to a degree, is we can kind of let the muses take us in directions that we hadn't considered, which is, to wit, why don't we actually have Golek... Let's hit the erase tool here. Why don't we have this man's arms folded? That would be good. So this arm's going to come up here. So we're going to have essentially a hand here. So let's just block that in. Block in the silhouette, if you will. Okay. So that's going to overlap his arm. So this is kind of having to draw a bit in reverse, you might say. So I'm doing the old go from the known to the unknown. I know his elbow is going to be about there. So let's get that in. Okay, and then we know this is going to have to be in shadow, and it's going to block his hand to a degree. So let's get, boom, that in. And like so. We're going to need the little hint of wrist. And then this is going to have to be in shadow. And that means that down here is going to be an even darker shadow. We'll desaturate it a little bit. I'm actually going to switch to behind mode, so I can't accidentally erase anything that's important. And now we'll take this, go back into normal mode, and get these crazy tassels. Well, this should be kind of interesting. I think this will be quite workable. This will be quite workable. Yeah, like right now, because of doing an Indian-ish voice, an islands Caribbean type voice would be extremely difficult, because in different ways mechanically in my brain they overlap each other. So one gets kind of lost in the other. And it's kind of embarrassing to like sit there and practice like live on camera, as it were. Trying to sort of get your act together. So I'm just being honest with y'all. I'm just telling you what I feel deep in my heart. My beautiful, wonderful, beating heart. I have a sister down in Georgia. Coincidentally, I have a sister in Georgia. And I have a sister in South Carolina. And they both talk funny. They really do. Now, you might say, that's weird. Why would you have a sister in North Carolina and a sister in Georgia who both talk funny, who actually both have different southern accents? That's kind of strange, isn't it? Think about that one. I have, and these are literally sisters. And the strangest thing is these two sisters have never met each other. And actually, now that I think about it, each one doesn't even know that the other exists. But they're actually both my sisters, literally. How is this possible? I'm not lying. I have so many sisters, it's ridiculous. It is a very interesting tale. So I will just say, if anyone wants to know the answer to those questions, those creepy, strange questions, how can I have a sister who has a completely different speaking voice, accent, and then another sister who has yet another different speaking voice, accent, and then a third sister who has yet a third accent, which would be more similar to mine, which is Michigan, which I've trained away to a large extent, but it still sneaks through here and there. Quite a mysterious state of affairs. Quite a mysterious question. How is this possible? The weirdest thing is to have the two sisters who've never even met each other. Traditional way, which is to put this at about 12. Traditional meaning my tradition. And I'm just gonna do it like so. Yeah, that's better. I kind of regretting a little bit here. We'll let this go a little extra dark and see how it feels. Yeah, it's fine. We'll actually cheat a little bit here by just doing a little bit of a blend and see how it goes. I mean, we're not really going to see this too much anyway, so I'm giving myself a little bit of latitude to be sloppy. And actually, totally regretting that decision. And so we're going to go back quite a long ways and redo this. There are times to cheat and there are times to not cheat. So I'm going to take the G key and change this opacity. I'm going to actually type in 12. And now we're going to actually also turn on alpha lock. So I truly cannot screw this up. And then what I wanted to do was get this whole region in shadow. There we go. That's really what I should have done in the first place. Sorry. Save our work. So, now, I guess the main thing is here, I suppose, is that obviously our guy is a little asymmetrical, and so why don't we just, like, you know, fix that? There certainly is no reason why we can't, and there's definitely no reason why we shouldn't. So I'm gonna just make that slight adjustment. Yeah, and now what we'll do is we'll just go in and draw this. We are in normal mode. It's gonna hit the G key, and I think what I want to do is just extend, sorry, opacity. Silly goose. I did a silly goose thing. Yeah, that's a little better. Do that. Get that. Hit the B key. Make sure we got our brush correct. Let's spin this baby around and let's magna doodle. All right. Not perfect, but better. And frankly, what I really think I want to do is just go like this, just touch this one up to make it comply a little better with the other one, because the other one's got that little bit rougher look to it that I like, to put it quite bluntly. Okay, let's save our work, hit the tilde key so we're not soloing things, and let's just look at our action here, our timing. Okay, yeah. So here's what we're gonna do. This is good. I'm gonna give Golek. Let's put Golek here. I'm gonna give Golek a keyframe like this. Control Insert. And then the very first thing I'm going to do on frame 5, we always like to give about a half a second for the cut to settle before I start changing things. Otherwise, the audience never even sees it. It just kind of blitzes by. Okay, so what I'm going to do is solo this layer, and I'm going to give him an eye blink. Okay, I'm feeling it when I watched it through just a minute ago. I'm definitely feeling this really almost casual, carefree eye blink thing going on. You know, I'm thinking maybe a little more deeply about what's going on here in this shot emotionally than I probably need to. It is a freaking cartoon after all. But hey, there it is. All right, so now if we're going to do that, and this is an eye blink of contempt. So it's not going to be a 1-framer, it's going to be a 2-framer, and frankly maybe 3. Let's look at it. Okay, Bob. Okay, I really want this actually more like here. So as Asher's passing away from the scene, yeah, and this is not showing enough contempt. I know, again, like I said, it's very subtle. Yeah, very, very pokey. And now we're going to play around with his acting. What's problematic here is right now I'm looking at Golek. Now let me just think about this. Right now I'm looking at Golek, and as a result, I'm not even seeing what the king did. You guys out there, weigh in for me. Okay, let me see here. I'm going to look at the comments, and then I want to ask you guys a question. When I run this shot, okay, I'm going to hit the end key. My question is, what do you see? What's your attention on when you watch this sequence? Now, out of context, it's probably hard to say. Okay, Krita's acting a little stupid, but... Okay, so I'm hitting the rewind. And now I'm hitting the L key, which I currently have mapped to playback, and for whatever reason, when I'm in full screen mode, it doesn't work. Really? Man, that's the kind of stuff that drives me up the freaking wall. Not wanting to get into a rant here, but it's like, OMG. Core principle of programming, DRY, means do not repeat yourself, means do not have code that does the same thing from 2 different places in your code base. It will always breed bugs, lots of bugs. And guess what? It is what we have here. It's the only explanation. Okay, done with rant, done with rant. The question is, when you guys watch that play, what, especially right at the beginning of the shot, what do you see? Are you looking at Asher, Golek, or the king? Okay, I think I know what to do. Honestly, what I'm feeling is Golek's blink should be way back here. So he is actually, okay, so I want to look at Jim's comment. Change my last comment displayed. Each keyframe is a ping on your system. There's no reusing drawings like in OpenToonz. Okay, that's a good question. My attention's on Golek, but he's the newest. Yes, that's my same problem. That's exactly my problem. Correct. Yes. Okay, so, and there are things we could do, by the way. When this is brought in for editing, we could do a slow push into Golek. So we could start with this. The audience would see it about to here, and then we would, and then probably what you would do is you'd push in a little bit on the king, and then pan over and push in a little bit more on Golek. Honestly, that's probably the way this should be handled. Let me test that. We might as well. We've got what we need in place already to be able to test that editorial choice. So why don't we just do it? 177, 1 through 38. That could be a little problematic. This is going to wind up being at least 72 frames. Yeah, let's do 72. Let me render this out, knock it into the show, and let's get the editing figured out, because frankly, it's really important for this shot, and it's going to be a really cool shot if we get it right. So the last comment I made was that, okay, it's the guy in the green based on the color scheme. Okay. Okay. Right. So my thinking would be our initial attention is going to be probably drawn to Asher for a moment, and then what we need to do is move the camera. By the time we get 1.5 seconds into it, we need to go ahead and draw the audience towards the king, allow him to have his reaction, and then what I'm seeing is right here we'll be starting to move over to Golek, and that's when we'll see Golek do this real casual wink, and then his mouth will curl into a smile, and that's the end of the shot. I think that's going to work really well, actually. So let's try it. So let's save our work. We'll render this to 177. And this is going to be 177 underscore, since it was originally generated by Blender. Did I just put in a 6? I think I did. Okay, 177, 177. We'll render that up. See what it looks like in the show, and let's just give it a crack. So we don't have the curling smile, but I definitely like the way this is. This is a great exercise. Great exercise in visual storytelling and editorial. So what I'm going to do is delete this, actually, and then clean our media pool. Just trying to keep everything clean. And then what I'm going to do is select this shot in the media pool, because then the new one will show up kind of close to it. So what we want is 177. Thanks for the feedback, by the way, you guys. 177, boom, open the sequence. This sequence plays at 8 frames per second, and there it is. And we drag it in here, and then we disable resampling, and then chop it together with this. And let's make sure we've got a clean edit point. Okay, so now what I'm saying is we're going to have this, boom, right about there. Let's go to the, so I'm going to lock my crop tool to my timeline, so that I can get my timing exact. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, boom, right here as Asher's leaving, we're going to have a duplicate keyframe. So let's grab this, and okay, that was a bit of a stupidity on Vegas's part, and now from there, we're going to push in a little bit to the king. 4, 5, 6. I mean, 2/3 of a second, I would say, is probably okay. We don't need to go very far. So what we want to do is do it somewhat like this. And as always, guys, I reserve the right for this not to work. Boo. Okay, so there's that. And then what we're going to do is take this key, duplicate it to there, and then now what we're going to do is push in just a tiny bit more and over to Golek. Now this could be pushing even more and much more slowly. Gosh, it's almost like it wants to actually pan over and then push in. I don't know that this is the greatest bit of cropping I've ever done. So what I was about to say, I don't think I finished my sentences. I always reserve the right to screw up. Okay, that's too fast. That's the basic issue there. So we need to smooth through this. And if I'm correct, then this spot here could go ahead and continue to push in toward Golek even more, but it might be too obnoxious where there's so much camera movement going on that it's starting to kind of pull your attention to itself. Yeah, I don't like that at all. This needs to be a cut. Yeah, definitely. Holy cow, that's bad. That's bad. That's bad. So we're going to get rid of those. The initial camera move is good. It's a little quick, but it's good. But I think if we're going to animate Golek with his big... There's his eye blink. Boom. What would happen, I'm just going to go ahead and split this and kind of do it this way, is we'd be cutting to something like this. And it would need to be tight. It really needs to get Golek in the shot by himself so we're not seeing the king. Kind of like that. So that's really what it probably should be. Boom, boom, stop, smile. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's the shot right there. Am I right? Am I right? Okay, I think Golek's eyeshadows are a tad too dark. I'll buy that. Okay. It's not too late to fix that. So, even though the king is in the foreground, the king blends in with the background. Okay, so, Amar's making a fair point here. I think that the highlights helped. I do not consider myself a great color guy by any stretch of the imagination. Now, to be fair, the background is too light in my opinion. So let's just address that right now with a little bit of simple airbrush work. It seems to me that, let's just go ahead and put this in here. We'll give him, yeah, that's probably okay. Let's put it in overlay mode so it kind of burns in. Yeah, that certainly helps. That certainly helps. We want to have enough light that we don't lose the silhouette of Asher. Now, it wouldn't be unheard of in the right circumstances to change the silhouette from black to actually a lighter color. I've done that before, and it can be quite effective. But hey, Ashton, eyeshadows, and also his lines are sharper and easier to read. Yeah, I appreciate the feedback here. I think, okay, yeah. I gotta take my hoodie off. I'm getting a little warm in here. Give me 20 seconds. Sorry about the banging around there. Okay, yeah, I am agreeing with pretty much all the comments. I mean, Golek's lines being sharper, I don't see as necessarily a good thing. I will say that. I actually like the quality of the line work on the king better, but the quality of the line work, or the line work on the king, is a little bit light. He's basically got no outlines here. You know, there's definitely a bit that could be improved there. Let's go ahead and get, let's see, Golek's in his own layer. So why don't we give him a mouth layer and just do it that way? M-O-U-T-H. Put a Golek in more shiny. You want to bring the king to stand out. Yeah, to a degree. I mean, Golek, we can always do this. And candidly, probably not a bad idea at all in this case, would be to have, let me see, have a situation, maybe something like that. And then when we get to this point in the shot, we actually animate this down so that he comes into the light a little bit. So, just to be clear, we don't want Golek to be angry at us. Okay, so let's go back to How did I write that? M-O-U-T-H. Let's go back to the beginning. K key, which probably is insane, but I made the hotkeys the same as Tahoma just to keep everything consistent. Right? Okay, so now let's grab the B key. And I'm going to say, yeah, Mr. Sourpuss. Mr. Sourpuss. Okay. Thanks, Blifton. I appreciate you. Appreciate you playing ball there, buddy. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to, at roughly the same pace, as the rest of the animation, we're going to go ahead and, oh, that was a boo-boo. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Thank you. Okay. Actually, I guess that wasn't a boo-boo now that I see it. Boom, boom. Now what we need to do is very carefully. What I'm really trying to figure out here is whether we need to animate his head. That, by the way, that mouth is a little problematic. In that, I would say the whole thing is too low. So do we need to actually animate his mustache and his facial shape? We could, but I don't know that we need to. But we can. Let's give it a crack and see what we like. Alright, so I'm going to hit the A key here on the Gulick layer. And we're just adding new keyframes, so no harm done. It's not cool that we don't see the mouth too much when we're doing this, though, I must say. So let's do this a little bigger, little wider. I'm sitting here making faces. It's the quintessential animator problem. You can't help it. You make faces when you're animating. That looks great. That looks great. File, save. Okay, I'm checking the messages. Oh, looks like nothing. Everything's calm and quiet. Calm and quiet. So let's go back here. Let's zoom out. And now we say Asher goes. King looks over. He deflates. Gulick blinks and smiles. It's quite good acting wise. Now, here in, let's see. Actually, let's do a couple other things here. Gulick, we don't necessarily want to draw too much attention to him, but we do kind of sort of want to have something consistent with what's going on with the king. So I'm going to alpha lock this and hit the G key, and we're actually going to just add some white like so. We're going to go boom, 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 and we're going to put a nice, gorgeous rim light on the guy like that, and then we'll just kiss it a little bit over there. Okay. Now what we're going to do is dial that in till it looks about right, something like that, and then we'll see that that will be muted somewhat by the tint. And also, I wonder, let's see about this. Boom. Let's render it out and see how it's looking over in the show. Okay. Play button. Okay, step one. I think the camera move should be happening from the start. So we're actually evolving to there, so let's take that out. take this out. Yep, I think that's better. So we're actually gonna, the only caveat being, I think it's too broad of a move. There we go. Oh, we missed our edit point. Control Alt drag. Let's put it there just to see what happens. Just to see what happens. Deflate. Ah ha ha ha. I would say not bad, not bad, not bad, but not necessarily great. So what I'm going to do is grab these keys. Actually, I'm going to grab the whole kit and caboodle and grab the Alt key and try to move these guys downstream a bit. I just don't feel like we gave enough of a breather. All right, save that. So this, an hour and 15 minutes on one shot isn't necessarily a tragedy, considering this shot is 8 seconds. Boom. Deflate. Yeah, now we can take this edit point, move it forward just a little bit. I want to get the... it's really close. It's really close to looking like a good edit. Bop. Okay, not too bad. Now, let's see about the... Let's see about these guys. Let's take these and likewise move them downstream a bit. Now what I'm going to do is I want to consider... Actually, let's see how that looks in the show. Let's just cut it in and see. I'm thinking I might want more keys. It would probably be better if his smile was happening a little more slowly. But it's not exactly a deal breaker. Not a deal breaker. I actually like that. That's got snap. Okay, so now we're into the whole next sequence of the show. So that's it. Having said that, this construction here is pretty useful for the next sequence. Katsu says, how long have you been doing this? Depends on what you mean by this. This shot, an hour and 19 minutes. This show, I would say that the short answer is around a year, actually. Around a year. It took me, I only feel like it wouldn't have taken a year. It would have probably taken more like 3 months, maybe 4. But yeah, so about a year. But going forward, things are moving so much faster now that I sort of know what I'm doing. So there you go. I mean, this episode is, at this point, this is a 24-minute episode that's virtually finished. I'm just going through and taking shots that could be improved and fixing them up. So there's been, all these shots have been redone in the last few days because the characterization was a little wrong. You know, just different things you want to fix. Added that shot to help drive, drive the story a little bit. So, okay. So this shot, we're going to dive right into it because to go from this To go from this to this makes all the sense in the world. And all the pieces are in place. The only thing I don't like is that Golik's body position is a bit wacky. I'm feeling like we could sort of get away with it right now because he's sort of got this attitude going on. But for the next shot, we need to get him into a more relaxed frame. This one has likewise a close-up, so you can see the difference in character. This is from, you know, like 8-10 months ago, done in Blender. This is like very recent. I mean, it's night and day. There are certainly situations, to be fair, where this look would be preferable. Okay, I get that. But what I'm trying to do is essentially an Americanized anime type aesthetic, and so this is much more consistent with that, and that's what I'm trying to do. It's not like it's a rule. It looks like a lot of work. It is a lot of work. But at this point, it would appear to be the case that I am able to consistently complete at least 15 seconds and sometimes up to 30 seconds of finished animation every day, which means I should be able to deliver a 24-minute show basically in about 3 months. And that seems to be the pace right now. Well, let's keep going. Let's keep going. This shot's going to get redone. Let's just get right into it. We're going to look at what Golik's line of dialogue is. He says, "Majesty, perhaps Asher has a point." Okay, we are in large part going to run this shot in reverse. That's what we're going to do. The only little caveat is that I want to separate Golik's head from his body so that I can do a little bit of massaging of his body situation. So I'm going to duplicate the Golik layer. All right, and now we're going to isolate this one and quite literally erase his body. Now there's only a few keyframes, so rather than using an erase layer, it'll be more simple and efficient just to create a selection. And by the way, this doesn't actually have to be perfect, but you know, if we can get it pretty close, that would be preferred for sure. So this part down here doesn't matter as much. Right here at the edge matters kind of a lot. So what I'm going to do is go like this, and then I'll just zoom out. And so what we'll do is we'll go Control X, call that head, and we'll actually call the group Golik. Okay, now this would be the body. And, oh darn, did I keep my selection? Oh, I wish I had. Well, that was silly. Oh well, no big deal. Now what I'm going to do is solo this layer and just basically do the opposite. I'm going to take this, I'm going to hit shift, and again, just kind of carefully get his head out of the layer. There may turn out to be a little bit of a border area between the two, but we'll see. So I'm going to hit delete, op, shift, delete. Oh, looks like we got two little hiccups actually. Okay. Delete, 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 delete. Okay. Alright, so now if we unsolo that, you can see that works out just fine. And then this would be his body. This is just going to make some of the steps I want to take animation-wise a little bit easier, that's all. So now before I get too far, what I'm going to do is kind of protect the effort by taking this let's see. I'm just going to put these guys in a group. And let me solo the group so I can sample this color. And now what I'm going to do is actually just draw a shape like this. Okay. And then I'm going to grab this color and let's switch it to be behind mode. And now what I'm going to do is just fill this in as well. So what that should do, okay, that's a little strange. Let's look at this. Okay, I guess so. Do that in behind mode. Okay, so now the question would become, why do we have... Unfortunately, what we need to do is just start turning layers off. I hate to do this, but doing this in solo mode does not work when you, in fact, need to solo multiple layers. So we're just beating our head against the wall here. We might as well just turn everything off manually so we can see what the hell we're doing. Okay, so here's the problem. Yeah, okay. There is, in fact, a gradient baked in to this red color, and I did not realize that. So that's okay. Now that I know it, we can address it somewhat intelligently. And we're going to address it this way. We're going to go like that, and now we're going to switch to our blend. Where the heck is... okay, that's disappointing, but that's what happens when you toy around with different versions of the software. I know, you guys are going, what the hell is he talking about? Yeah. You play around with different versions of Krita at your peril because you will... okay, first thing we're going to do actually right now. Yeah. We're going to bake this together. Boom. The underlying data management in Krita of your resources, like your brushes, your hotkeys, all that stuff, is... how do I put this? I could give you very detailed information about where things are kept and where information is hidden, but it's not like you'd really remember it anyway. Suffice to say, that Krita's... in other words, the things about the software you're running that would make it portable. In other words, if you just took the Krita folder and put it on another machine, does it restore everything? Like, now it's going to have all the same hotkeys, all the same dockers, yada, yada, yada. And the answer is not at all. There's absolutely nothing portable about Krita. Even if you use a portable version, they're kidding you. They're joking. It's not true. There is no such thing as a portable version of Krita. So, anyway, the point of the story is I was fiddling with some versions of Krita a week ago or something, and not altogether unexpectedly, all my you know, my brush selections that are in the pop-up and stuff, everything got destroyed. I had to recreate a lot of stuff. But that's it. Again, it wasn't unexpected. It's really pretty typical with Krita. There's nothing portable about the application. Even if you download it, like from portableapps.com, you know, like the portable version, it's not. It's actually storing all kinds of stuff in your system folders, in your user account folders and whatnot. So if you know what those things are and where they are, you can actually achieve portability, it turns out. But it's both a little difficult on the one hand, and obnoxious, but it more so for me it's unnecessary, so I find that a little annoying. Okay, what are we doing here? We're gonna actually have Golik do everything in reverse. So this is his body. We're basically flipping this shot around. Okay. So let's deal with Golik first. He has a lot of layers. I don't really prefer to generally work this way, but in this case, it might turn out to be a win. So the key here is to save your work really frequently. Okay. So here the Golik layer. This is just a tint, so we can ignore that. This is just an effect, so we can ignore that. His mouth is going to be important. This is the initial pose. And so what we're going to do is take the initial pose, move it out a bit, take these keys, move them back, and then I believe what we want to do is reverse them. So mirror frames. Yeah, so this is actually a duplicate. So now what we really wanted to do was actually take this out a bit so that he goes. Okay, now the Asher layer, which is, I believe it's this. Obviously, this can be deleted entirely. And now what we need to do is save this under the new file name, which is going to be 178. Right? 178. So let's do that right now while we're thinking about it. Save as 178. .ping.cra, which it should not be overwriting, and it's not. And that's because the original version of this scene was done in Blender. Okay. All right, so I'm going to... yeah, he says, Majesty, perhaps Asher has a point. Okay, so thanks, Katsu, for the compliment. Tenacity. Yeah, I mean, I guess I do have some tenacity going on. Okay, what we're going to do with Golek first, before we get too far, is we're going to make the corrections on his body. Okay, let's just think about this a little bit. Step one would be to do it on the next frame so that we can toggle between the two and make sure that what we did was actually an improvement. Because sometimes, you know, you get a little crazy on your fixes and then you realize that whatever you thought was going to be an improvement actually wasn't too much. So my thinking is perhaps his elbows would come up a bit. Okay, and obviously we cannot have changes in volume. That's not really acceptable. Now what I would say on this one is let's just call this a correction. We'll let it pass on the previous shot. But in order to make this concept play, we've got to lift his shoulders a little bit. Okay, yeah, so as you guys can see, we definitely have a change in volume here. But the solution is probably not to change the new pose, but to change the old one. Okay, so now if we did this, let's actually move this to here, and then see if we can maybe very slightly create a slow in tween. Okay, now if we did that, let's go here. It will unfortunately change the position of his mouth, which means we're going to have to do a little bit of fiddling. But that's okay. I like the body language here. So let's say in his head layer, hopefully this makes sense, you guys. I'm going to go to just a standard free transform. What I want to do is do a very, very tiny shift here, and then a bigger shift here, probably like that. Because he's kind of shifting his weight and thinking. Okay, that works. Wonder, I'm actually going to do a complete flip on his head and see what that does. Interesting. Interesting. So you can see we still had some clunk left over from the body, so we're gonna have to clean out. And actually not bad, as a matter of fact. Let's keep playing with this. Boom, boom. I would say here we want to make a little bit of change in the expression because we want to kind of reverse those eyebrow situations a bit. So this one's going to change a little. That's moving it more into the correct persona for Golek. So let's turn his mouth off just so it's not like causing distraction. Okay, so now once he flips, we can definitely see some symmetry issues that probably should be addressed. Oh my goodness, that's a little embarrassing, isn't it? You know, this is why you flip your canvas frequently. But this is kind of working. I'm going to defer, at least at the moment, on the whole issue of the shadows around Golek's eyes. Actually, they are a little on the dark side. If we were gonna fix those like right now, how would we do it? Let me think about that. I'm gonna save my work and kind of look at how things are unfolding acting wise. Yeah, that's great. Actually, that's really good. Okay, so he actually says, Majesty, perhaps, Majesty, perhaps Asher has a point, and he probably would bend his head down like that. At that point, the king would react, so this whole sequence actually, we're starting here, so bear with me, folks. I need to mirror these frames and move these back here. That's a nice reaction. Don't know if I'm going to need it. And I would say I'm going to move this way downstream just because I don't really want to chuck it. So Golek's going to be blah, 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 blah. Boom. So what we're going to do is take this, move it to roughly here. I really actually kind of like that reaction. Let me see. Yeah, little double take. I think that'll work. Let's keep saving our work. Did you do that initial camera move in Krita? I don't know what camera move you're referring to. The only camera move at this point is in the editor. This camera move? I don't know what you mean by initial camera move. If you're referring to this is all done in Vegas in the editor by just cropping the shot. So there is no camera move to speak of that's worth calling a camera move anyway. So I don't know if that's what you meant, but okay. So now let's go back to Golek. When he gets flipped around, we need to make a correction here. Okay, so he says, okay, yeah, what we need here is a blink blinks always help with if you're going to have, if you're going to flip your character's head to change their orientation, which frankly comes up a lot. And eye blink helps sell it. With the silhouetted shot, yeah, the camera move was done in, I think the initial shot that was done in Blender probably had a camera move baked into it, but I mean, doing camera moves in Krita is generally bad policy. I mean, it's really obnoxious to try to do. You can do it, but it's hard. Requires a lot of steps and care to do a convincing camera move. So my general recommendation would always be patient here with this process. Yeah. Come on. Okay, so the head layer obviously has a hiccup down here. So I'm going to hit the G key, E key to erase, and just get rid of that. That is actually quite cool. Definitely might come in handy. Definitely might come in handy. So we're kind of in the same boat here in the sense that this shot likewise has some fairly subtle acting in it. I would call it subtle acting for, you know, for a basic anime style cartoon. So figuring out how he's gonna be moving around, as I say, will require a bit of care. But here we go. So we're gonna start out here. Okay, stop. I do not want that really obnoxious smile. I do not want that here. I'm going to get rid of everything on the mouth so that it's not distracting me. I'm even going to get rid of that one. I just want to start clean and animate forward. Okay, so let's just go ahead and hit the B key and just do this. Just kind of a little bit of smugness, I think, in his expression. That's not quite it. Okay, not bad. God, man. Wow. I'm going to play with this. This is really, really not good. I just want to address this lack of balance. That transitional frame is probably okay. Here, not too shabby. That's probably okay. So, not the most glamorous part of the process, that's for sure. Okay, again, mouth. Okay, how in the world? guys are necessarily seeing what I'm seeing, but boy, is it obnoxious. Well, the better I get at doing this stuff, the more I see just horrible flaws that I just want to fix. Horrible, horrible, horrible flaws. Usually the kind of thing I'm seeing here, which is just imbalances. Look at that. Boop, 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 bop, bop, bop. And for me, I'm going to keep the first one, actually. Okay. So, here, get to the mouth layer, B key, insert. G key, insert. Insert. Perhaps Asher has a okay. Unfortunately, I think I made a mistake. I did. Perhaps Asher has a point. The mistake being that the dialogue actually has the word majesty in there first. Majesty. We might be able to fix it. Majesty. Okay, if we put this downstream a frame or two. Let's see. Okay, yeah, we need another mouth shape here. Let's stretch this out and rotate it and maybe flatten it a bit. Majesty. Whoa. Take a breather there, Golik. Perhaps Asher has a point. Okay, these two, I'm going to move these down to there, take these two, control drag, put them there. Perhaps Asher has a point. Okay, that worked. Save our work. Stop here for half a second, check messages, see what's going on, if anything. Nothing. So cool, fine. Let's keep rocking. We're at almost 2 hours today, this morning, and things are going well. Majesty. Perhaps Asher has a point. Okay. Alright, let's go back here and look at what this. I wonder. Let's slide this downstream, and then let's take this and put it here. This is a reaction. Alright, we're going to do a couple little tweaky poos here on Vespigi and see how it goes. His initial expression is going to be a little bit down. A little bit down. So I'm just going to toggle between these and see if I can buy that. Maybe a little adjustment here. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. This is going to be closed eyes. So that's why I wasn't actually too worried about the fact the eyes look pretty much stupid. I'm like, that's okay, because I'm about to erase them. Boom. 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 Okay. Don't know if this really works. Might be a little heavy-handed. But what the heck? Let's try it. Okay, so Majesty. Let me see. I really like that reaction too. So I don't know if the inflation deflation thing's actually helping me. The furrowed brow's kind of interesting though. Let's just go ahead and try it. So this is principally no different from this, so let's just jettison that progression. And I would say just this time I'm going to take this and go down. I'm going to go 3, and I'm going to actually allow a slight twist to the left. Darn. Boy. Doesn't take much motion to... Okay, that's all I wanted. Okay, let me look at what Golik's next line of dialogue is. Okay. What? Yeah, I love this. Okay, this... Majesty. Boom. Okay, yes, so this is way too early. Majesty. Perhaps... Blah, 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 blah. Okay. So we've got to get this timing. We've got to get it blocked in. It is what it is. Majesty. Perhaps Escher has a point. So he's going to respond to that. So, has a point. What? I like that a lot. Okay, so now on point, it almost seems to me that there should be... Okay, let's fix this right now. Let's take the head layer. Trim to image size. Okay. Let's see about his mouth. Boom. Okay. Little details. Perhaps Asher has a point. And then we need a moment to get our attention back over to the king. Point. What? Okay. This could be a little more brisk. And then I think we're going to want to cut to a close-up. What? Probably okay. Alright, Vespigi, does Vespigi have a mouth? He does not. There's that paint layer. Let's give him a mouth layer. M-O-U-T-H. It's all about the acting, people. It's all about the acting. Let's go to mouth layer. Insert a key at the beginning. And let's just zip in here. We're going to use the G key, freehand path tool, in raw mode. And he's going to go, whoa. Okay, that didn't quite work out. Okay. Feels right. About right there. Save our work. Let's hit rewind. Majesty. Perhaps Asher has a point. What? Dude, I like it. I like it muy mucho. Now, it could be that this whole sequence could maybe be bumped up just a little earlier. Has a point. What? Well, blah, 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 blah. What? Well, okay. I think that's working. File, save. I think it's working. It's working. It's working. Or I guess the quote from the movie is, it worked, it worked. I've mentioned this before. It's actually a line that Colonel Hathi, the elephant, says in the Jungle Book, in the background, off screen, as a minor reaction line to, I don't even remember what happens in the Jungle Book. Something happens, and in the background you hear Hathi say, it worked. Okay, so these two shots are both being taken, essentially removed at this point. So clean the project media. This is going to be 178, which everyone agrees this definitely looks better than what I am getting rid of and replacing. The question is, do we keep going? I think we will keep going. Let me see how this works. Well, you cannot collect taxes. What? Yeah, we need to cut to a close-up, though, because obviously Vespigi never turns his head, and it's stupid to animate him turning his head for no reason other than to preserve this wide shot. Makes way more sense to cut to a close-up. So what we'll do is we'll have this transition. Yeah, what we'll do is we'll have a transition of him turning towards the king, and then we will cut to the close-up. That makes sense. So now on his mouth layer, here we should obviously hit the A key. Okay, things are seeming to want to lock up a bit, so. And I'm hitting the A key, and for some bizarre reason, I'm getting, oh, I know why, probably. That's pretty obnoxious. Okay, so I'm going to go to free transform, and it wants to do nothing. So all I can say is what is happening right now appears for all the world to be catastrophic corruption under the hood. So 178.ping.craw. I'm going to rerun Krita. And it's the first time. I really haven't had any crashes today to speak of. The very fact that we talk about crashes as just a normal thing is pretty pathetic, but yeah, it is what it is. Not everybody can sort of have NASA's standards of software quality. In fact, basically no one does. And nor will they ever. Okay, so we're on the mouth layer, and what we were trying to do before we were so rudely interrupted was hit the freehand path tool. This is really strange. Oh, okay, stop everything. That might explain it. Could be that Dave's had a stupid attack. I am in the Vespigi mouth layer instead of the Golic mouth layer, so that's completely my fault. Sorry to be blaming on, hating on Krita, because that was absolutely my silliness. Well, okay, so hit the G key, methinks, in raw mode. I'm going to do this. I'm going to actually give him an extra phoneme. Well, okay. I actually think the shift back to the kind of raised eyebrow thing probably works pretty well, but I want to mod it a little bit. I want to kind of bring these slight. Oh, something's wrong. This is not. Yeah, that was it was in rotation mode. We don't want rotation mode. Not at all, not at all. Alright. And then, right here, let's solo this layer. Boom. Right here, what we want to do is hit the B key. Let's switch to that brush just because it's got a solid color. I want to turn Golic's attention to the king. Like thus. Okay, I think that worked. File, save. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to render this and cut 178 into the show just to kind of see if things are working. So 178 render. No, we're not going to 72 people. We're going to, I'd say 92 just to be safe. And by the way, I see an error. I see a boo-boo. Let's go back here. Kind of understandable considering. Yeah, this is like completely ridiculous. Oh my gosh. Wow. Be cool, Dave. Be cool. Okay. Not that big of a deal. Not that big of a deal to fix. Okay. But that's not the real problem. The real problem is his eyes are looking in the wrong direction. Nope. Gotta solo the layer again so that we can sample the correct color. Then what I'll have to do is actually zoom out to see where the heck his eyes should be looking. So unsolo, got the B key. Let's just look back here. He's kind of looking, yeah, that's closer. Now obviously we need to tighten this up a bit, but I like the way it's allowing a little bit of the evil in Golic's demeanor to come through. Sample that. Why? I guess I'm having to really press hard to get the line density. Okay. Whatever. Okay, File, Save, turn on the tint, Control R, and we're rendering to 178, not 177. And I'm going to check the images because I suspect, I just don't remember where, yeah, those came from Blender, so they're ending with an underscore, so that's correct. So there we go. So we're overwriting the old shot. And I'm going to go check the messages. Looks like nobody's saying too much, so that's cool. Everybody's just kind of watching the show, baby, watching the show. And here we're going to select this in the media list, and then we're going to bring in 178. Render, open the sequence, 8 frames a second, boom. 039. Well, how Krita or how Vegas is deciding what to select. Oh, I see. It's because it's this, but that is actually out of sequence. Okay, that's understandable. As a matter of fact. So we want to go to 178. That's way up here. 178. There it is. Stick that in there. Turn off the resampling. Okay. Boom. Little smile. Asher leaves. Majesty. Perhaps Asher has a point. What? Well. Okay. Well. Okay, and the thing to remember here, by the way, is I'm not convinced that the editorial decisions baked into the animation are perfect, but we can always just cut this clip into pieces and tighten it up, you know. So, no big deal. And, you know, if we spread things out, we have the option. If we try to edit it really tight and then find out that we made a mistake, there's really no way to stretch things out unless you start grabbing still images and dragging them into the timeline and building it up that way, which you can do. I have certainly done that plenty of times when the situation warranted. But, okay, that always seems to be sitting on the screen for a long time. So he's banished. He's deflated, as you command, Majesty. Yeah, that's obnoxiously long. As you command. About there. Okay, yeah, actually. We should. Yeah, that allows the camera move to continue. So I'm actually going to take this and stretch that all the way to the end so that no matter what, the camera's still moving and it flows into the camera move of the next shot. Yep. Majesty, perhaps Asher has a point. What? Well, okay, and there's ugly Golik. Ugly old style Golik. Okay, I see something just came through. Went back for a sub. Just went for a sub. I actually got E. coli from Subway once. Actually, when I was shooting my second to last movie, we went to Subway for lunch, you know, in the middle of a long shooting day, and I wound up getting sicker than a dog, man. I was really sick. Okay, let me see what we have here. 2 hours and 13 seconds. I am going to go ahead and go get refresh my tasty beverage. We got this done, that done. How we doing? 21 seconds, not horrible. About just not quite 10 seconds per hour, which is very, very good. If I can do 5 seconds per hour, I'm satisfied. And 10 is better. Which really, if you think about it, if reliably doing 15 seconds of finished animation in a day is actually only about 2.5 seconds per hour, so there's a little bit of latitude here. Okay, so we're gonna cut into a close-up. Let me see what we have back here on this close-up. That really, I want to actually look at this full mode and just see. Yeah, I mean, it's a little soft from being, you know, scaled up, but geez, basically it looks pretty good. So we might be able to just go ahead and use that shot quite nicely. So let me go freshen up my my tasty beverage, which is really just water, and then we'll see what we're doing next. Hey, Maria. Lots of chores today. Well, okay, yeah. Blipton's referring to the E. coli story. That was... Man, it's hard to imagine, but that was about 8 years ago. And it only happened once, so... Wow, it's really freaky to think that was 8 years ago. Crazy stuff. Okay, so Golik has this line. By the way, if my darling Valerie pops through, I may go meet up with her for a couple of minutes and kind of see what her day is shaping up like. You've been warned. Okay. So he says, well, you cannot collect taxes or debts from empty land. So this dialogue here is kind of important, actually. All right, so let's backtrack. And I think that this would be the time to consider trying to simplify a bit. Oops. Let's go. I think the look there is pretty good. I would say this is going to be 181. I'm actually going to quite literally save this as 181. And that may already exist, but I suspect not. Yes, because it is a blender. Okay. Now, all I really want is this. All I really want is this. So I think that the simplest solution here probably... we can't remove keyframes and pull like that because actually we need the first frame on our background and stuff. So what I'm going to do is go over here, remove frame and pull. And we're going to take Golik's head, go there. What's going on with Vespigi? Vespigi is in that position. Get rid of that. Okay, that should be... Now the question is, do we need to do anything necessarily to sharpen this up? Since it is going to be a close-up, I don't really want Vespigi in there. That's really the framing we want, something like that. I think Golik looks okay. So what I'm going to do for this shot is actually delete Vespigi. And since there's nothing animated at this point, we have no animation, we can go ahead and reframe everything. I would say let's follow our normal practice of baking down. Let's bake down. Actually, strike that. There's one problem with baking down, and that's the tint stuff. That tends to make color matching really, really complicated downstream. So let's bake the background. That's nothing. And I suppose what we'll do is scale this whole layer, which we should be able to do. Just do a free transform of the whole group, like so. Let's err on the side of not too close, and then let's put just the hint of the throne in the corner. Now that is not looking right. Let's see what that feels like. Too big. Okay, I'm going to take Golik and actually go with my initial instinct and enlarge him a little bit more. Okay, not too shabby. This is 181. And let's just, again, like I said, let's keep it simple. I don't want to change anything here until there's a good reason to. So let's go to the mouth layer and just get the lip sync in there. Well, G key, insert, you cannot collect. I almost hate to do this, but I'm going to go ahead and put in a second key there. Collect tag. You cannot collect taxes. Okay, let me look. Okay. You cannot collect taxes. Boom. Right here, let's go to the head. Do a slight ease. We're just going to do a two-step here. Slight ease, and then a jump. Okay. You cannot collect taxes or debts. Nice. Insert G key, mouth layer, or oh, that's not quite erase mode. Okay. And we'll say from MD, and then we're going to do another head shift. All right, so head A, again, little slow out, and then a move. Empty land. Back to his mouth. Insert G key. Okay, now what we're going to do is consider what we might want to do with the eyes. Okay, so I'm going to jump back up here. Oh my gosh, there's a bunch of stuff. Okay, I'm going to take 5 seconds and look at what's going on up here. We can do another broadcast. How long do you usually take to write this script? Is this for a short movie? This is for the initial. It's about a 50-page script, so it's a double-length, 48-minute episode, which would serve as a pilot for a a series that would have up to 12 episodes. But there's basically an epic storyline, and then there's an episode pattern. There's sort of so you've got standalone episodes that each work in isolation, but yet there's also a thread of a bigger story that goes through the episodes, is the idea. So, and I made the point yesterday when I was talking about crowdfunding the cartoon, the show, is that the epic story could be told in 4 episodes, actually. But my concept originally was to weave the epic story more slowly through an entire season, you know, of a show. And another thing to consider is how do you get through the epic story while putting all the pieces in place so that the show can continue even after the major epic story is resolved. So there's that to consider. All that's completely doable. It's just writing problems, you know. So right now the overall epic is pretty clear in my mind. And the initial episode of 48 pages is of course written. That's what this document is that nobody really gets to see too much. It's up here on. It's actually written in OpenOffice, which is of course a free word processor, where I set up a template to match Hollywood convention as far as the formatting of the screenplay goes. So anyway, that's what's going on with that. Okay, so my question, of course, was, is there any reason to do a bunch of extra animation on Golem? And I would say no. I think that I'm starting to get in danger of giving myself a lot of work to do that almost kind of violates the aesthetic of the show anyway. So I'm gonna pull back here a little bit at this juncture, and you know, a little eye blink here. Absolutely, that's cool. Helps sell the transition. But I don't want to get into a bunch of, you know, jacking his face around for no good reason. This is truly a scene where the important thing is the dialogue, because we're filling in some really key information here that makes the whole rest of this double-length episode make sense. So I'm going to say we're going to keep it simple, Sherlock. So this is 181, file save. Let's render this. And actually, by the way, let's see how long this goes. Bop, 64. Okay, we'll do 64. Boom. Save this. And we're going to render this to 181. So, yeah, what you're not going to get on my channel is a bunch of curated YouTube content that makes it look like the process or any given software tool or whatever is just oh so fun and exciting and easy and oh it's just amazing. No, that's really not what you're going to find here. What you're going to find here is this is if you're actually creating an actual show in the real world, this is what the work looks like. And if you find that interesting, great. Feel free to play along and hang out. And if you don't, well, I wouldn't blame you, because it is not particularly glamorous, a lot of it. But it is fun, as I say in the description. You know, it's not easy, but it is fun. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of really good challenges involved. Okay, so that should have updated, and it did. So we're going to actually jump here. And as I expected, actually, I do feel that this shot should actually be cropped a little bit more, like that. I suspected that was going to happen. Yeah, that's perfect. I like it. Did we... Yeah, disabled resampling. So I'm going to look at my script again. So he says... Yeah, so he says... He's happy Asher's gone. Asher exits. Majesty, perhaps Asher has a point. What? Well, you cannot collect taxes or debt from empty land. Is that what he says? You cannot collect. He says, well, you cannot collect taxes or debts from empty land. Okay, and Vespigi says, what do you mean empty? This is 181 again. I hear of nobles pulling up stakes. What do they say here? He says, to go north where the land is still fertile. So he says, we'll come back and fix this. What do you mean empty? Well, I hear of nobles pulling up stakes to go north where the land is still fertile. That actually works. Wow, holy crap, that worked really well. He just has to start his line before we make the transition. So that's wonderful. I just got 2 shots for the price of 1. Is this reverse? Yeah, this is actually, this shot ran in reverse. And it works. If you can't argue with that. That's funny. When in doubt, run it in reverse and see what happens. Okay, so let's just see what's up here. I tried Scenarist. It's a free script writing tool. A little quirky at first, but simple enough for me. Yeah, I do what Maria does. I just did in OpenOffice. I mean, WordPerfect, whatever. I mean, they're all word processors. Heck, I mean, a few years ago, I wrote a screenplay in actually MS Word 6. Which is like from 1992, just as an experiment. It was just kind of cool because it was simple-ish back then, and it had built-in Word Basic. But yeah, what I use is, I mean, for those who care, what I've done is in OpenOffice, if you look at the custom styles and formatting, and also the, let me look here and see if, I guess the dialog is closed. Is it F11? Okay, F11 is for that, and I've got to look at the navigator. So the navigator, the good thing I find in OpenOffice, at least the way I use it, is that if I set a beginning of a scene with this style, which is a scene heading, it becomes an entry over here in the navigator. So I can actually double click and go to any scene in the show. So essentially I get an outliner. And then, you know, right now, to be honest, it's broken because this was originally written on my laptop. So I need to redo the hotkeys. But if you modify the styles, you can go in and completely customize the styles. And then I'd have to remember, I think it's tools. It might be tools options. Let me look here. I'm kind of curious now. That's... I'm not going to take too long to grok this out, but what I'm looking for is actually the option for custom hotkeys. I don't remember where it is. It might be under customize. Yeah, it's customize. So customize keyboard. So you can go through and actually assign keyboard hotkeys. So I have it set up so like Control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever selects each of these different formatting. It works really well. You know, I mean, and I've written several screenplays using just stupid old open office. You know, it works. So, all right, there went Valerie. I'm going to go hang out with her for 5 seconds. Well, okay, 5 minutes. And then we'll come back and let's deal with the king. He needs to be redrawn more consistent with this, but this should be pretty easy to do. And then looks like we're going to get 2 more shots for the price of 1 here because this is all just dialogue. So you guys, this would be a good opportunity to do what Blifton did and go get a sandwich or go to the bathroom, whatever you want to do. And I am going to go disappear for about 5 minutes. I'll be back, and then we'll keep rocking. All right, I am back. Let me see. Thanks everybody for sticking around. We've got 10 concurrent viewers. Getting down into the negatives. And so the cat, we had to set up a situation for the cat so that the cat could go in the garage at night because it's just getting a little too punitively cold. What was it like back in those days? I kind of imagine seeing it through an old TV. Look like that. Haha, that's a funny question. Always fun to talk to the younger people about the old days. The old days, I say. Okay, what do we have here? We already replaced that. It's interesting that Vegas has the thumbnail wrong here. That's kind of interesting. But what we want to do is redo this shot. It's actually not horrible, but it's not quite right either. So, no biggie. He says, what do you mean empty, I believe. Yeah. Okay. So up on the I'm jumping because I was showing the script. I sort of lost my place. Okay, so yeah, he says, what do you mean empty? And that's 182. The question is, should we go back to the wide shot? I think not. I'm going to leave this up because I suspect we're going to be coming back to the close-up. In fact, I know we're going to be coming back to the close-up. And I believe I cropped this. Let's hit the A key and say, oh no, I didn't crop it. Okay. So that means what we can do here is, let's go ahead and save this. File, save as, and what was it? 182, I believe. Let me double check. Yeah, let's save this as 182. And then we're going to do some pretty major surgery on it. And then we can always reopen 181. But basically what we want to do is shift over here, kill gullet completely. Boom, you're gone. And now what we want to do is decide what we're doing as far as getting Vespar back in the shot. Save. So bringing this in, because this really isn't too bad. Doing a color correction on his hair and then just a little bit of massaging it around to make it work. I think this is probably going to be okay. So this background will actually probably be unnecessary, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go File, Import Animation Frame, and we're just going to add 182 in here. So we can take a little closer look. So here's the render. Okay, 182 CRA. Now that's interesting, because I just saved that as 182.ping.cra in the scenes folder. So I want to open this up actually. Let's pull this. We'll go ahead and pull these in. And then I'm going to open up that other CRA file and just see what it is. I'm very curious. It might be a fairly old, like ancient version of this shot. So as you can see, there's a lot of redundant frames here. And it's basically his mouth. So I'm just gonna take a minute and clean this up. I suspect this is going to be boom. Okay, so we only have one blank. Yep. And then this, I got a feeling nothing else changes. Yep, I was correct. So all this can be deleted. So there's our actual shot. The Blender version of it. Now, obviously the throne's in the wrong position there, so I'm not even going to try to salvage that. What I am going to do is... well, what we actually need to do, by the way, is do a fix paint layer over top of this. I will look at that. No connection between the two. They don't have anything to do with each other. But yeah, Krita is whining about something. What the heck is Krita's problem? I just don't know. Okay, so that pretty well takes care of that. Oops. There we go. Okay, so this is going to overlap the whole scene, so we'll just hit Control E and bake it down. And now we've fixed the ugliness in the background. So File, Save. And now, like I said, just out of curiosity, let's go in here and see what this is. Okay. It turns out that I already did this in Krita. That's hilarious. It turns out it was already done in Krita. Doesn't matter. We'll just close that. There's no reason to keep it around. We'll ignore that masked man behind the curtain. So, now what we're going to do is we probably need to... more than one way to skin this cat. The basic issue is his hair color. So I'm going to go and see if there's anything going on here. You guys are having a fun conversation about the good old days. I think the easiest solution is going to actually be to paint over it. Yes, that's the solution. So that's what we're going to do. I am actually going to just add another layer. And frankly, gosh, I'm thinking I'm just going to go with sort of a mid-tone here. I can always change the hue. Hey Darren, welcome to the party. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I guess I'll just hit the G key. Let's grab our pencil and hit the G key. And what I'm going to do is just draw my own mask. Krita, what are you doing, girl? Come here. Come here. Go to bed. Good girl. Lay down. Good girl. She's such a good dog. She's a Shiba Inu, which is from the Shiba Inu would be a likely candidate. So that comes with certain disadvantages. One being that if they get out, they tend to go feral. In other words, they turn back into a wild animal pretty quickly. Quite a nerve-wracking proposition to have your Shiba get out and take off running. It's only ever happened one time. Unfortunately, we got her back pretty, almost miraculously actually. Somebody somehow, she must have gotten hungry. And somebody convinced her to, you know, be friendly and captured her and turned her into the animal shelter, so we actually got her back that way. Pretty amazing. So, Krita, you want to say hello? Krita wants to say hello. Come here. Come here. Turn around. Okay. Say hello, Krita. Say hello. Okay, go to bed. Lay down. Good girl. Oh, yeah. Krita's a very good dog. A very, very, very good dog. Okay. So now the question becomes, How are we going to blend it? If we go like that, we are losing our shadows to a degree, so I don't think normal is what we want. Overlay is maybe we're going to gain too much saturation, so let's just kind of go through. Let's just toggle through blend modes and see if we get lucky with something that just kind of hits the mark. Color's interesting, especially in the fact that it doesn't seem to do anything. We definitely don't want erase mode. Lighten mode, luminosity, normal, overlay. Screen is probably close. Divide's interesting, but it desaturates a lot. So I'm going to say screen is probably the closest. And then what we will do here, we're just eyeballing it, okay? Let's go to here. We're probably okay with screen. We don't have to make a massive change. But we're going to lose a little bit of our contrast, obviously. So I think the solution to that will be to take a little bit darker color and let's just brush it, baby. The good news is there is only one frame here, so if we can just paint a little bit of our contrast back in, this is gonna flow very nicely over the entire shot. So and I think I'll just sort of bake a little shadow action into it, and yeah. So now we're in painter mode. Painter mode. We like painter mode. It is fun to paint. Fun to paint. I wonder if is that alpha locked? No, doesn't seem to be. Okay. Now, let's see what happens if we dial that in a little bit more. To look like the other shots, it feels to me like that's about where we want to be. What I'm going to do is not bake it down. I'm just going to leave that layer there, and that way we'll have it as a well, the old tummy rub. Rather important, rather important. Okay, now on this, I guess what we could do is, I actually like the color. I think we're pretty much in good stead. It could arguably be lightened a bit more, but we're doing okay. So now what I'm going to do is take my standard, we're sort of getting back to the fun stuff here, which is meaning actually I'm going to add another layer and just start drawing over this. I just want to get some real outlines in there. Probably should be more like that, but and just get back into animator mode here, if you will. Back to basics. Back to basics. Boom, boom. Let's delineate this a little bit more. So we're sort of driving home that, as I say, Americanized anime aesthetic a little bit. Let's go ahead and put in some borders here. Obviously that slant on the head is pretty egregious. One of those things you don't notice until you look at everything in reverse. And The bad news about that is that we're going to have to do a little kludge here, but that's okay. This kludge will be pretty a pretty useful fix actually. So let me see. This is obviously the wrong background. I'm going to save my work. So what we need to do is we need to isolate his mouth so that we can then make adjustments to the body that are going to propagate over the whole shot. So the way to do that is, number one, duplicate your layer, and then this is going to become the mouth. All right? And what we're going to do, very simply, is just go in here on the mouth layer, and we don't even need this key on the first frame. Okay, let me see if we isolate this. Okay, yes, so the mouth is going to wind up being over top of everything. So let's go ahead and put that up there over this fix. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to hit the S key and make this selection of the mouth. Then hit Control-Shift-I. Okay, and now we're going to go delete, delete, delete. We're going to delete everything except his mouth. Okay. Now we've isolated his mouth. If we turn this back on, the only issue, well, it's kind of a big issue now that I notice it, is the color tint is making the mouth too light, and we can't really do a contrast adjustment of it without, long story short, is we need to trace this mouth properly. That's a bummer. That's a bummer. But how can we do that efficiently? We can't do it very efficiently, but we can do it fairly efficiently. Like so. We have to actually, unfortunately, do this if we want to be able to have the benefit of that overall color correction. So, I speculate that if I have to spend 2 whole minutes fixing this, that the world will keep on turning. And so that's what we're going to do. Let's go like that. Just go through and just fix it. Well, this is what you have to do when you're fixing up old shots that had flaws in them that you didn't really recognize at the time you originally did the shot. It happens. It happens. It does happen. And as I mentioned earlier today, you sort of pay the price of spending a couple minutes doing that sort of thing, this sort of thing, which gives you a minute to let your brain veg on what you're going to be doing next and just kind of get back in your groove, right? Back in your groove. So there we go, we're done. Okay, so the mouth has been preserved on its own layer. Thank God. Because it's only the first frame that matters, and it goes on underneath the mouth. So now what we can do, I guess we're going to have to be bold here and bake this down. It'll just make our job easier. And now we can dial that in a little bit, and we can do the see you, Maria. Now we can fix this out of balance pose. A key, liquefy. I don't want to do anything like that, but what I do want to do is just shift that up. We want to be careful because we don't want to make his body position, the way his weight is shifted, is a little stupid looking. Yeah, we got a couple choices. We could bring back in the old back. Okay, so if I wanted to do this correctly, and I kind of do, then the sensible thing, which one was it? Yeah, right here. Okay, there's the throne. But really, I don't want the throne. I want the whole background. So it seems to me that there it is. There's the whole background. Let's just drag this in and refix that. Come on. Let's just do this right. So we'll insert that as a new layer. The fact that it's going to be a little out of sync is probably okay. So I'm just kind of feeling it. Just kind of feel the feeling. Okay, so we'll fix that shortly. Now what we're going to do, since everything's baked into a single layer and he doesn't really move around, that means that on this first frame, we can hit the G key and the E key and just start chopping things out. Like, well, yeah. But when you hit the E key, it needs to actually register that you hit the E key. So first I'm going to just broadly delete lots of stuff, like so. And then turn this layer off so I can go ahead and clean this up properly. And then we'll be able to actually fix his body position, which is pretty stupid looking. Let's be honest. Pretty stupid looking. And unfortunately, you can see that the fix... Well, actually, I baked those together. Why isn't that erasing? Ah. The question is, does this layer actually help me much? It does not. We're gonna delete this layer and come back and we'll redo it. But it's gonna cause more trouble than help, so let's just stick to our plan here and get the king into shape. Once I get through these sequences of these fixes, I'm totally seeing where this type of thing is not going to be necessary near as much, because essentially I'm hitting the mark with my storytelling, my drawing, everything, my animation. You know, the first time out, much more than I used to. So I'm not finding myself having to go in and redo stuff and fix it near as much. But boy, some of this stuff that I did earlier just really bugs me. Okay. Now that we've done that, file save. Now we can actually just use some common sense here and just make things not look quite so stupid, right? And doesn't take much, as you can see. Probably a little shift there. Maybe give him a little volume out there, but I think that'll do the trick. That looks pretty good. We'll flip it. You know, he's still in a little bit of a strange position. It would be, in a perfect world, we'd probably take his whole head and maybe tilt it a little bit, but we're okay. This particular shot, you know, we're okay. So now there's the background that has to be resized yet again. And we want to do a free transform. Let's just pick it up a bit and see if we hit the mark. Resize. Not too bad. I'm actually just going to widen it. Okay. I'm thinking that looks pretty good. I'm thinking that looks pretty good. Do we want to perhaps pull that out a little bit? I think so. Okay, save that, render that, and I believe the shot is DUN. That spells done if you're DUM, dumb. So this is 182. Yeah. Control R, 182. Now this image sequence, I suspect, Krita, what are you doing, you goofball? Come here, Krita. You're supposed to be over here. Go on. Good girl. Okay. This is, yeah, dot. That's what I thought. So now we're getting out of the stuff that was done in Blender, and boop, there we go. There we go. Okay, and there it is. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Why did that happen? Oh, I see. Krita. I should lay down. Go on. Good girl. She's being a little bit too curious at the moment. Okay, why is that like that? I don't know, and frankly, I don't really care. I'm going to get rid of it. And bring it back in. So let's go up here to 182 and see what's going on in the render. Why did it only render? Okay, this is completely my fault. Well, of course it is. There's nothing happening here that isn't my fault. Okay, let's try this again. The glitch is on the render side. So let's go here. Ah, there you go. That would explain it. So if we go back here and look, we'll see that this goes through 100 frames actually. So just to be safe and simple, because the shot did get reused in reverse, I know, let's just go ahead and render all 100 frames and call it good. So there we go. Boom. Alright. Why it was only rendering 2 frames? Not exactly sure. But there we go. Fixed. Alright, so he says, what do you mean, empty? I hear of things pulling up stakes. Now I remember when I tested this before, it came out perfect. Okay, yeah, and then this is just a... He's just kind of thinking. Okay, so what does he say? Yeah, the script says Vespigi ponders this. Let's do this. I'm not gonna... I could do the old furrowed brow thing. Let's put in a blink. This is interesting. This is going from 0... 282. I don't understand Vegas's numbering system. This is actually a static image. That's why. That is a static image. Not sure I'm happy with that. It's 052. I say what we're going to do is we're going to look at our timing here. This is 4 seconds, so 32. So that means after frame 32, we kind of have latitude to do whatever we want to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump to 48 and just do a little work with Vespigi. Save our work. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do, like I said, the furrowed brow thing. So we're going to do liquefy, shrink in reverse. Okay, keep that. And then methinks. Methinks a little move. And it's not quite right. Not quite right. Okay, that's what we'll do. We'll have him go, Okay, this frame needs a little bit of the ornery. Otherwise, it's too much of a jolt. Yeah, that works. And I would say, let me just look at this. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so this third one, we have a tiny little issue there. Oh, come on. I'm seeing too much of a jump. Don't know if that'll work. Phooey. Darn it. Come on, Krita. And I hate to be so stuck on nuance here, but that is not quite right. And it's sufficiently wrong that it's distracting. Okay, that worked. Okay, so I'm just going to re-render this. And we should be able to split it up into 2 shots. Okay, so the way we're going to do this is this shot is going to be deleted because that's just a... Okay, so hold on. Control, undo, undo. Okay, let's actually turn off the ripple editing because it's causing a little bit of grief. Alright, so now what we want to do is grab this in the trimmer and we're going to go to frame 32. Come on. Okay, that's a little weird. I need to look at this thing. I need to look at the properties on this. Through 152, or through 0052. Okay. Okay, I see what's going on. Okay, that makes sense. Alright, so we need to re-import this. That sucks, but... so what I'm going to do is select this in the media list, and we're going to re-import this. This is 182? Yeah. Scenes. 182. Ba-pop. Ba-pop. And we want all 100. Now we've imported it twice, so probably it's going to be treated as 2 separate image sequences. At this point, I frankly don't really care. All I want is to grab this sequence right here at the end and stick that into the show. Alright, so now I'm going to hit Control L and turn the ripple editing back on. Excuse me. Sorry. That's all I needed. Too long. Boom. Yeah, right there. So pop that in. Okay. Alright. We're going to have to come back to 181 for the next bit of dialogue. But boy, is this looking better than it did before. Gonna jump to... Sorry, hit the wrong button. Okay, it looks like not too much going on the chat. So, this shot looks fine. We may want to come back and repurpose some of it because we really do have a bit of dialogue here between the guys. He says... Okay, let's just kind of look at this in the editor. Come on. maybe Asha has a point. What? Well, you cannot collect taxes or debts from empty land. What do you mean, empty? Well, oh, he says, what do you mean, empty? I hear of nobles pulling up stakes to go north where the land is still fertile. Okay. But what if Carliana's Northlands were part of your kingdom? Okay, this is where it gets a little interesting. What if Carliana's Northlands were part of your kingdom? Yeah. Okay, that's a good line of dialogue. Basically, the acting's about right. This is where Golik left off. So why don't we go to 181 and see what we can do with that? I suspect this is going to be a pretty easy repurpose, if you will. So let's go to scenes, minus 181. There it is. And as usual, we kind of want to think in reverse. But what if part of your kingdom? Okay. I would say it's kind of the usual story. Let's run this one straight and see what happens. But what we're part of your kingdom. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab this sequence right there and remove frames and pull. Okay, and now what we want to do is save this as 183. File, save as 183. Taping da kra. Alright, and we're going to do a little bit of acting here on his brows and whatnot. What if okay. Okay, and right here, I'm kind of feeling like an eye blink would be good to bring the man to life a little bit. So let's just do it. Hitting the G key. We need to turn this off. That little bit of difference in tone isn't going to hurt a thing. But what if Carliana's... he says, what if Carliana's Northlands? What if Carliana's Northlands? Okay. I need 2 more phonemes here. What if Carliana's Northlands were yeah. And he turns his head. We're part of your kingdom. Okay. Let's grab these guys, hit the Alt key, and just drag them to the west. Save our work. We're going to have to slam in the rest of these phonemes. Boom, right there. Let's grab the mouth layer and just obviously adjust this. Doesn't have to be adjusted too much, though. It's staying in its relative position when the head moves actually kind of works expression-wise. So part of your... Okay, I'm going to grab this, move that all down. I said move it all downstream. I guess we actually have to have keyframes selected in order for that to work. And sorry, bad mistake, I didn't hit the A key, or the Alt key. Okay. That's really kingdom, or part of your... And just kind of throw in a... what is arguably an interesting Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to grab all this stuff and go remove keyframes and pull to pull these downstream. And now let's get rid of all the mouth here. This doesn't matter. And what we want to do is probably here on the mouth layer, make a small adjustment. And then here, so that's kind of an interesting expression that doesn't work yet because of his face, because of his eyes. So let's start from where we're going to end up. Actually, let's work in reverse here, because what I want to do is make some adjustments here to his head. Sounds like Kyle's laughing over there quite uproariously. Okay, so let's liquefy this and just kind of go like this. I'm not going to worry about patching the holes yet. Let's just get it looking. Let's get the key pose looking pretty much like what we want. Okay. That's definitely on the right track. And now I sound like Valerie. That's her accent. Now, grew up in Seattle. Whereas where I come from, we say now. Boom. Okay. Go back here. And now I guess I will go ahead and fix up the patches. So let's zoom in and just get busy. Let's hit the G key. We'll sample our shadow color. Let's fix what we know we definitely need to do. And I would say we want to just give him this shadow zone. Seems to be his look. Snaky, evil Golic. B key. Let's redo that one. And then G key, sample this. See how quick it was to fix that? I just love that we can do it that easily. Intuitively is really the word. It's like what I see in my head I'm able to do pretty readily without a bunch of extra fiddling around. Okay, so it looks to me like things are acting locky and stupid, so I'm going to jump back and forth here and save my work. Let's check the chat. I've kind of figured out how to get what I need out of it, that's for sure. Yes, look at that. Ah, yes. Yeah, the ability to actually grab a selection, use the liquefy tool, and then just patch up the holes has been a godsend. It's just an amazing, it's just so efficient, you know? Okay, so on his head, we want to go like, there's one more little fix here, which is this. Let's go G key, sample that, get rid of that. Looks like there's a bit of a gradient built into the head, so I have to be a little careful here. But now if I go like this, this is Golic on, whoops, this is Golic on his best behavior. A snaky little creep. Always sneaking, always plotting. Evil Golek. So, there it goes. And I tell you, that looks good. So his line of dialogue is, "But what if Carliana's Northlands were part of your kingdom? But what if Kalyana's Northlands were part of your kingdom? Nice. Nice. Oh, he is such a snake. Alright, file save. Let's cut that baby into the show. We did it. 183. And then we'll come back to 182 and redo that. Fix the next shot. So Control R, 183. Not 182. 183. Okay, stop. Something's wrong. Badly wrong. Which is, watch this. This originally came out of Blender, so I'll bet you if I make this an underscore. Yep, there we go. Okay, so just to keep things clean and not have a bunch of garbage piling up, let's go to 183 render, and let's just delete everything and re-render it so we get rid of the old version as well. There's the underscored version. Yeah, let's just get rid of all of it. And then the reason I'm re-rendering it under the correct file naming convention is that it will automatically update in Vegas, because Vegas is already referencing that image sequence. And there it is. So this is questionable. Yeah, I guess that's right. And so now we need to move all this downstream and see if this image sequence is long enough. Ah, looks like we're okay. Looks like we are okay. So at this point, yeah, we've updated about over 40 seconds of show today, so this is looking pretty good. JP asks, how many episodes you have finished? This is the first episode. It is 24 minutes long. It is the first half of a two-part 48-minute long episode. The second half has the last 8 minutes animated. So what we have is here in the month of February, I'll be doing these corrections like I'm doing now to bring the overall quality of episode 1 up to where it needs to be, you know, legitimately releasable as a show. And so the story is the epic story that weaves throughout these characters' little situation, as I said earlier, could be told in 4 episodes. My plan has been to tell it in 12 episodes. So ostensibly that would mean, based on my current workflow and pace, I could deliver a 24-minute episode every 3 months. 4 episodes a year for 3 years. There's your whole epic. As of yesterday, I did announce here on the live stream that I do intend in March to launch a crowdfund on the basis of A, can we get support to underwrite the audio and post-production side of this initial episode, as well as the completion of the back half of it, which gives us a complete 48-minute pilot. So we want to underwrite that production if we can. And then stretch goals would be, number 1, to go ahead and expand it out and underwrite the entire 4-episode epic. And if there's an additional stretch goal, go ahead and spread it out to 12 episodes. So the difference between the 4 episodes and the 12 would be that the epic story would be woven through the 12 episodes, but each episode is a standalone story that works on its own. But yet you have this continual story woven through the whole thing. My point being, from the standpoint of crowdfunding it, is that the epic story that's really important could be told concisely in 4 episodes. But my original plan was to weave that slowly through 12 episodes. I can do it any way any way you want to do it, I can do it, because it's really just a writing problem to go ahead and, you know. So, will there be action combat? You know, where you have this montage of paintings telling the story of what happened to the king that was displaced by the current king in a coup. They're brothers. So there's some violence, but it's really not an action anime. So, having said that, from my perspective, the story, let's say the genre, the overall look and feel and tone of the show is probably most similar to something along the lines of kind of a mix of Avatar: The Last Airbender, which I would call an Americanized anime, and perhaps a little bit of Del Toro Quest, which you sort of see in some of these character design approaches. And plus the fact that most of it is animated at 8 frames per second. Okay, having said that, those are shows that have a fair amount of action. You know, there's almost some obligatory action in every episode. If we look at the back half, for example, just if you guys don't mind me indulging JP's question, let's load the back half. So I never really seriously entertained the idea of doing a crowdfund, etc. on this thing until very recently, because I didn't ever want to go down that road until I felt really comfortable that I could deliver the goods in terms of quality and in terms of time. So I really wanted to get my workflow figured out. So if you scan through the back half here, you can see there's some, you know, there's a little bit of sword play. You could argue that there's a little bit of action, but it's not about fighting and combat. You know, it's not that type of a show. It's just it's really a drama where there are some action moments that are a lot of fun. Like this sequence when they're trying to get away from the soldiers is kind of a good example. You know, the two heroes, they have to cross this river, which is not looking fun at all, right? Luca, the young guy, he just scurries across, no problem. So, and he's like, come on, right? What are you going to do? And so Mel resolves, I'm going for it, and he starts scurrying across. And then while he's struggling to cross the river, zoom, she zips right past him. And he's like, she is really starting to annoy me. So and you know, they're kind of on the run, and then they find their hiding spot, and then this is where they sort of figure out that the three of them have been cast into a situation where they have to work together, you know, and they don't really have a lot of options. And so this is where they sort of realize that they're going to have to throw in together and become a team, right? For various reasons I won't get into right now in a lot of detail, but basically the way it ends up is she makes sort of an emotional pronouncement that she's all in, and then you see the three of them and the monkey all resolve to get going on their way. And then the last thing that happens at the end of the pilot is that the bad guy finds the jewel that she dropped in the melee, and so he knows that they were there, and so now to be continued, because now the bad guy is on their trail. So this all happens within the first 48-minute pilot episode that really launches the story and gets everything into place so you can plow forward. So this is you know, that's a long-winded explanation that I think probably in my crowdfund pitch belongs in there in a much more concise way, frankly. But I really didn't feel like I could go down that road at all until I felt like when I watched the show that I wouldn't, but I don't know. I mean, I just wanted to get to a certain level It's the way I feel about all of my, my commercial media clients. I don't want to get involved with something unless I really feel like I can do a good job. And satisfy people's expectations, what they would expect from a show like this. So, having said all that, this is an ambitious goal. You're not supposed to be able to create a complete 24-minute episode, write it, animate it, do the voices, write the musical score, the whole thing. To do all that, according to all the information you're going to be able to find online, that should cost well over $1 million and is impossible for one person to do in 3 months. It can't be done. I beg to differ. It can be done, and I will do it. But it took me a while to figure out the workflow and the, learn the tools, learn the techniques, get my drawing up to scratch, frankly. There's a lot of steps that had to take place for me to get to that comfort level. This needs to be re-rendered, by the way, because the lighting was botched. So that's a long-winded explanation, but it really tells you where I'm at. I expect to finish this episode visually, the animation part of it, in February, and then in March, while continuing to move forward, go ahead and launch a crowdfund campaign, probably Kickstarter. Not quite sure yet on that one. And see if we can essentially raise the funds to underwrite 3 years of work. That's what I want to do. Not opposed to the possibility of expanding a team, which I think if I had a team of 6 to 10 people, I could deliver an episode a week. In fact, I'm sure I could. But, finding those 6 to 10 people would be pretty tricky. That would require some effort and a little bit of luck, I would say. Right? So, anyway, that's kind of what's in the offer. In offing, I guess I mean to say. All right, so where are we at? We are at... You got this. Hey, Katsu, dude, I appreciate you saying that. I would have, if you would have said that 2-3 months ago, I'd have said, I don't know, man. I'm trying, but I'm not sure. But now I would agree with you. Actually, I think I do got this, and I expect to. I know me, and believe me, when I got involved in filmmaking, there's a line you cross, I've observed in my life, where the way I describe it is you get hungry, you get competitive. You sort of cross a threshold. It's really weird, at least for me. You cross a certain line where you go, like you said, you got this, right? You cross the line where you go, what, I'm going to do this. I'm determined. I'm not just poking at it to see if maybe, we'll check it out, we'll explore. You're past that point where you go, no, I'm going to do this. And for me, a lot of that was, as I said, it was just figuring out the workflow. So I am, really confident that I can deliver the goods here. Okay. So he says, I have nobles pulling up stakes. Go with Lannister for Carolina's Northlands were part of your kingdom. Okay, I got to go back here and double check my timing. I'm thinking this is prior editing, and it could be that shot 182 is going to be able to be reused, but I have to go back and kind of find my place. Okay. So he says perhaps Asher has a point. What? Well, you cannot collect taxes or debts from empty land. What do you mean empty? And he says, I hear of nobles pulling up stakes to go north, where the lands are still fertile. But what if Carliana's Northlands were part of your kingdom? I like that. And the king says, without the nobles, how could we raise an army? That's good. Okay, so I'm going to mark that, actually. I'm going to go without the nobles. That way I just remember where I'm at in the story, because especially a dialogue situation like this, it's easy to get lost, actually. Okay, and Golek says, this is such a great line. Not war, your highness. An alliance. I like it. I like it muy mucho. How are we going to do it? We got to replace this shot 184, so let's just do it, man. I'm going to repurpose this. I'm going to actually just save this immediately as 184 because I can already see what I need to do to make this work. I love it. This is the fun part of it, man. The fun part is the acting. It's not about the animation, even though that's important. An alliance. I'm going to actually just expand this shot out and make it work. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to get rid of his mouth up to there. Actually, let's just get rid of all of these. Let's remove frames and pull. Yes, I like that. So this actual change in attitude works quite well. So we're going to give him a little breathing time. Not war, your highness. An alliance. And then all we got to do is add the lip sync. It's perfect. It's perfect. It's perfect. Perfect, I say. All right. Let's zoom in. Hit the insert key. And G key. And alliance. G. Okay, we'll give that one extra frame. Insert. All right. Wow, that was easy. So he kind of cocks his head at the king's response. Not warrior high. Okay, yeah, little problem. This starts too early, so let's hit the A key. We'll grab this row, and let's just take the whole thing and shift it up. Boop. Not warrior highness. An alliance. I love it. I absolutely think it's stupendous. So this is 184. Is it 184? I think it is 184. This is 185. I'm going to move this downstream. And this has got an underscore because it was done in Blender. So I'm going to go render 184. Golly, this is coming together nicely. I'm really glad I'm redoing all this. Okay. Yep, there we go. So that's going to get replaced, and we'll see if the actual image sequence in Vegas came out correct. Okay. So, what if Carliana's Northlands were part of your kingdom? Without the nobles, how can we raise an army? Not war, your highness. An alliance. Okay. It worked, except this image sequence is too short. We've got to go ahead and pull the rest of them in. So let's grab this in the media pool. Let's, in fact, clean the media pool, and let's pull in 184 all over again. 184, boom. Open sequence, yes. 8 frames per second, yes. 184. Properties, disable resampling, slide these guys downstream. Alright. Okay, I want that to happen just a little bit sooner. Whoa, Your Highness. An alliance. Boom. Then this is pretty lame. I think. I want to completely rethink about what I'm doing on this shot. This might be a good place to take a break, actually. I've knocked out almost, golly, probably almost a minute of fix-ups today, which is kind of amazing. Yeah, this has been quite a productive day. Almost a minute. So I think this will be a good time to take a break. 12:06. Yeah, it's going to be lunchtime. So I'm going to... Okay, check out Voices of a Distant Star. Okay, thank you. But they usually hire special animators for action scenes. I can't imagine needing to do that, frankly, JP. Because number one, I mean, I know, you know, martial arts black belts, right? It would be really easy to get people to choreograph action stuff if you want to go down that road. And to shoot that and rotoscope it would be stupidly easy. So, Voices of a Distant Star, though, I will check that out. I wonder if that was that crowdfunded in some way? Voices of a Distant Star. Japanese science fiction original video animation, OVA, by Makoto Shinkai. Okay, so where do I... I guess I'll look on Wikipedia and get the story behind it. But yeah, I'll check that out. I definitely will check it out. You know, as far as similar crowdfund situations that I have been able to find, there are really only two on Kickstarter that I can find, is Under the Dog and Blossom Detective Holmes. So, you know, we will see. But anyway, I think that's it for now. I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. It has been almost 4 hours, so a pretty respectable session. And thanks for hanging out. As you guys know, there will be more